Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I saw these two articles I think are very important because this is what's happening in California. This is what's happening in our LA cities, our Inglewood cities, cities in America, all over, basically. And it's really sad because starting with Inglewood, city of Inglewood begins quiet evictions of residents. And so I know some people have been hearing about this, but this right here was really sad to see that this is happening, but it is a reality, unfortunately. And this is out of two urban girls. And I was looking at this article, and some people are familiar with this. So it is Inglewood Mayor James Butts misinformed or simply a liar. Okay, so two urban girls has consistently reported on a property located at 4821 and 4949 West Century Boulevard that is owned by the city of Inglewood. Mayor Butts publicly stated that the city didn't own it and chided a resident for exploiting an elderly wheelchair bound woman brought to a city council meeting crying over her housing being taken for no reason. Okay, so it goes on in depth with this article to say additionally, he had admonished this blog during April 23rd city council meeting for reporting them as owners. Now, two brave residents have come forward with receipts to prove he has lied to the public about the ownership of the building. They have shared unlawful detainers, okay, filed days after the council meeting with the city listed as the plaintiff. So, in quotes, a silly online publication reported that we are evicting the elderly when we all have done when all we have done is put our name on the property for purchasing a piece for the street widening project. So this was quoted by Inglewood Mayor James Butts, April the 23rd, 2019. So two residents are still facing eviction for non-payment of rent, an action not covered under the current temporary rent stabilization ordinance. So one resident in particular retained an attorney last December due to habitability issues of their apartment. So she reports that there were bed bugs and electrical hazards resulting from electrical sockets catching on fire. So another resident made Mayor Butts aware of the problems as well as with the bed bugs not properly being treated and an electrical concerns that were going on in the building. So it appears that the management owners are aware based on a permit being pulled to the address these items. So 7/9/2018 BAACR 2017-09-04482, all units removed and replace finishes, electrical fixtures, plumbing fixtures to be relocated. Sorry, I'm not sure. Sorry, Alexa, this is not for you. So it goes on to say replace doors, retrofit windows, new guardrail, exterior stair reconfiguration. The value of the property was listed at $90 million. And so two urban girls reached one of the Warren Properties employees back in April who shared that they received building permits and the property was headed towards an extensive renovation once all of the tenants were out of the building. So Inglewood's Building and Safety Department has also been called to the property by the residents, which resulted in them being issued 60-day notices to vacate later that day. So, is the building deemed unfit to occupy? That's the question. So, on May 1st, two urban girls reported those 60-day notices were rescinded. So the mayor has maintained the city's only owns the sidewalk, thus making it confusing to residents as to why they receive notices with the city listed as plaintiff. And so this, I guess, is a copy of a notice. And so the mayor, if Mayor Butts is making statements of material falsehoods about evicting residents and true ownership of the property, of this property in particular, what else is he misrepresenting to the public? So this right here shows City of Inglewood, and it shows a notice of an unlawful detainer eviction. And so it's probably hard to see, but if you want to see it, you can look it up. It's under the title here, City of Inglewood begins quiet evictions of residents. And then you can probably blow it up and see how it looks. And so it goes on in the article, and I believe this is someone here that is talking about this whole ordeal. Doesn't sound very good, but it sounds like people who are on fixed incomes, who are low income, or who have been there for long periods of time, maybe years, maybe a decade or two, are being evicted. And it's because of the high rents and then because of the uninhabitability issues and various other issues. And then they feel as though that they're not being told the truth of who is the true owner of the property, that they're not really being honest. So here we go with this video here. It looks like it might be pretty lengthy. I'm not sure, but if it is, probably gonna have to cut some of it off. But this is about this issue in Inglewood with the evictions.
Madam Clerk, they're new. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
One present for the City Council, Successor Agency, and Housing Authority.
We have a presentation for the Hudnall Elementary Science Fair winners. On March 11th through the 15th, Hudnall Elementary School hosted the Science Week. During this week, students participated in the Science Fair, Science Explosion, and other activities and competitions. Councilman Eloy Morales Jr. supported and was one of the sponsors of these events. The Science Explosion Day consisted of hands-on science workshops for kids and competitions for the fastest wind sail car and egg drop sturdiest egg container. Now there's some money in that egg drop sturdiest container. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Morales.
Thank you, Mayor, and I know you'll announce the winners in a minute. I want to first thank Cudno and the parents and Ms. Dr. Goolsby for being here. They were just a really great program over there in the Science Fair. Gracias a todos los papás que están aquí, que son de habla hispana. Gracias por apoyar su escuela. Gracias por apoyar a sus hijos. So I'm going to go ahead and read the commendation we have for this particular celebration, and then the mayor will continue. We will announce the winners and the mayor, and then we'll go down there and take a picture, okay? So
It state that because now we're listed as a joint owner, that if they raise rent in District 4 under the tutelage of Councilman Franklin, any persons wishing to address the Inglewood City Council's successor agency, Housing Authority on any item on today's agendas may do so at this time. Okay, hearing no comment, we'll move on. We'll move on to the agenda. Item 1, CSA 1 and H1. Madam Clerk.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Consent calendar items 2 through 6.
Don't move.
Madam Clerk.
Council members Dodson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Joint consent calendar items 7 and CSA 2.
Staff report recommending approval of the purchase and sale agreement between the City of Inglewood and Armando Navarro and Patricia Navarro, husband and wife as joint tenants, to secure 756 square feet of right-of-way from the larger parcel located at 10003 South Inglewood Avenue, needed to implement the Century Boulevard Mobility Improvement Project, Sub-Area 3.
Move City Council item 1.
Madam Clerk.
Council members Dotson, Padilla, Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye.
And now I move successor agency item 1 for the same item.
Second. Okay, before the vote, Madam Clerk, I want to explain this. You know, I've seen in some silly online publications, when we do this, what we do is for the mobility project, we have to condemn an area of sidewalk to widen the sidewalk for ADA accessibility. You have to do that with every street project over a certain dollar amount. And so we have to do the same thing for, I think, close to 19 parcels on Century Boulevard. We condemn a sliver of sidewalk to make it wide enough for wheelchairs. And so we've had some silly online publications state that because now we're listed as a joint owner, that if they raise rent or they evict someone, that the city is evicting them. Well, that's not true. So I just want everybody to understand that this means that we will own a sliver of sidewalk to make the sidewalk wider. So if you see us listed on a building, it's an apartment building, a hotel, we don't own it. We just own the right of way for the sidewalk. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor. Successor agency members Dotson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. 01.
Staff report recommending the introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 8, which is a wireless telecommunications facilities within the public right-of-way of the Inglewood Municipal Code. Mayor, communications have been received and passed out to everyone
You
on this item.
said, excuse me again?
Communications has been received on this item,
Okay.
passed out to everyone.
Okay.
Money Griff, strong community activist, leader, and problem solver. And I rise today not only for the voiceless, but also for myself. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all? It ain't my fault that that lady last week lied to our council, lied to our city when we talk about public authority, when we talk about housing, Section 8. For the record, let the record reflect the voucher. The voucher payment standard is the most the housing authority can pay for a unit. If the rent for your unit is higher, you must pay the difference in the rent. Last week, a lady said that's illegal to Councilman Franklin, and Councilman Franklin stopped speaking. So I got the documentation of substantiation and verification of that information.
Fantastic.
Now what?
Thank you very much.
I'll rest my case.
Ooh.
How you guys doing? I'm Elgin, and I'm a city of Inglewood resident, and I'm here to speak on the behalf of the rent increase. And I've been living in Inglewood for 10 years, and the building I live in was $11.95 when I moved in, me and my wife, and plan on retiring with decent rent. And the original owner was getting old, so he said he's going to sell the property. So he told us that he's going to have to increase the rent $400 to make it a better sale for him. So from $11.95 to $400, okay, we was like, that's decent. It's a 2-bedroom, nice place. And 12 months later, the new owner came in and raised the rent $400 more. Now the building has never changed. There's nothing been done to the building. So after 12 months, you know, push my retirement back. I'm not a bum. I'm an ex-gang member for 32 years in Rouse, and I still work for Rouse. So you property owners, I understand with your place, but somebody just played by the rules, straightened his life up. Now he's being pushed out of the place that he lived for 10 years. So after 12 months, They sell the building again. So the next guy comes in, we didn't know the building was this bad. We got to raise the rent again, $300. I know you guys heard the story all over again. He hasn't did anything to the building. One person moved out because that's the plan. Keep raising the rent until you get people out. So the one unit that was empty, he gutted it out, made a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom.
Okay, sir.
So that's what I'm dealing with. So
I get the idea. But
okay, so one more.
No one more. You're at 2 minutes. Then not today.
Okay, sir. I thought it was 3 minutes.
No, it's not. It's really not. It's 1 minute.
All right. Well, you guys got what I'm saying, right?
We sure get what you're saying.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Griffin. Let's not do that. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Sonia Gray. This is my first time here. I live in Inglewood. And then it would also be the same thing. I work in homeless population. I'm a housing locator for a nonprofit, so I help find housing for homeless people, and they're also working. So it's only 3 minutes. So my rent was increased 42.3%, and then of course it's nothing done about upgrades or anything. But my question is the 8% cap. So is it any way that you guys can consider that 8% can make someone homeless, because 5% can make someone homeless. But if you guys can just reconsider, because I know you have everything in the work and trying to work with land, because my landlord is excellent. He can raise my rent forever. And then he did. But when he did, it was $475 increase because it was nothing in place. So if you can just kind of reconsider the cap at 8% could make a person homeless that's been somewhere for 10 to 12 years. Just like if you can consider what is reasonable for the renters to be able to live here, and then the landlords.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, City Council, Mayor, staff, regulated Second District. I'm gonna try to put a positive spin on things. It's a great weekend for Earth Day. This one I don't think I can be any prouder of what the city's doing. I'm proven wrong. Special thank you, whoever made the call on having the closing act Beacon function. Thank you very much. I was born and raised in Belleville, California, as many of you know, and keyboard player was 3 houses up on Sheridan Street on the right. My brother was dating the drummer, his younger sister. That's how close that band is to me. The lead singer, his daddy taught me how to fish. It's really fun to see them come all this way and all these years still going. Uh, and that's how I'll leave it, folks, on a positive note. Forward Inglewood. Thank you.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood, California. I'm proud of it. I would like to say the state of the city is something that we've never had in this country before. Earth Day, off the hook. This city council and staff should really, really be proud of what you're doing here in this city. And I want you to know that the people in the city of Inglewood support you. As a homeowner myself, if I decided to rent my house out for $10,000 a week, I want to be able to do it. There's got to be some kind of incentive for people to buy property. Want to keep moving around, just don't buy no property. Just keep renting. But the people who own the property have a right to rent. If they can't rent it out, then they'll bring the price.
Thank you, Mr. Easy.
afternoon, Mayor, Council. Eric Holly, Executive Vice President for Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank everybody that came out and supported the State of the City address. I definitely want to thank the team that put it together, Melanie, Halima, Tiffany, Carrie. Great event, extremely nice turnout, some amazing support. People were ecstatic and really enjoyed the way that things went for the event. Also want to congratulate the city on Earth Day. Uh, Amazing turnout there as well. It was unbelievable to see the people all the way back to Manchester having a good time on the South Lawn. So kudos to the city on that as well. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to move on to the next article that was out of the New York Times. And this article is somewhat related to some of the issues that are going on in most metropolitan or most cities around in America, period. So it says America's cities are unlivable, blame wealthy liberals. And so I saw this article and kind of stuck out. And so I was like looking and I said, who would you blame? So that is the question. Is there more to it than just blaming this particular group of people? I believe it has something to do with people who have more money and have more wealth, and they're able to live in these expensive luxury apartments or townhomes, or they're homeowners. But a lot of people are able to make a lot of these wealthy people, in other words, are able to make a substantial amount of money and live in these high-rise lofts and expensive dwelling places. So it goes on out of an opinion section. This is Farhad Manjot, and so he's an opinion columnist. So the demise of California's housing measure shows how progressives abandon progressive values in their own backyards. And so a lot of people are very concerned about this. Is a very disturbing photo showing people that are homeless and they are seeking refuge. You can see people from all walks of life with all of their belongings. Homeless people sleeping in pews in the church in San Francisco. And so to live in California at this time is to experience every day and the cryptic phrase that George W. Bush once used to describe the invasion of Iraq, catastrophic success. The economy here is booming, but no one feels especially good about it. When the cost of living is taken into account, billionaire brimming, California ranks as the most poverty-stricken state, with the fifth of the population struggling to get by. Since 2010, migration out of California has surged. The basic problem is the steady collapse of livability. Across my home state, traffic and transportation is a developing world nightmare. Childcare and education seem impossible for all but the wealthiest. The problems of affordable housing and homelessness have surpassed all superlatives. What was a crisis is now an emergency that feels like a dystopian showcase of American inequality. Just look at San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi's city. One of every 11,600 residents is a billionaire, and the annual household income necessary to buy a median priced home now tops $320,000. Yet the streets there are a plague of garbage, needles, and feces, and every morning brings fresh horror stories from a Black Mirror hellscape. Homeless veterans are surviving on an economy of trash from billionaires' mansions. Wealthy homeowners are crowdfunding a legal effort arguing that a proposed homeless shelter is an environmental hazard. A public school teacher suffering from cancer is forced to pay her own substitute. And so in March, teachers went on strike for 7 days in Oakland, California, arguing that their salaries were not keeping up with the region's soaring cost of living. And there is no end in sight to such crushing success. At every level of government, our representatives, nearly all of the Democrats, prove inadequate and unresponsive to the challenges at hand. Witness last week's embarrassment when California lawmakers used a sketchy parliamentary maneuver to knife Senate Bill 50, an ambitious effort to undo restrictive local zoning rules and increase the supply of housing. And so that is going on to say it was another chapter in a dismal saga of NIMBYist urban mismanagement that is crushing American cities. Not in my backyardism is a bipartisan sentiment, but because the largest American cities are populated and run by Democrats, many in states under complete Democratic control, this is sort of nakedly exclusionary urban restrictionism is a particular shame of the left. There are many threads of the story of America increasingly unlivable cities. One continuing tragedy is the decimation of local media and the rise of nationalized politics in its place. In America, the local problems plaguing cities are systematically sidelined by the structure of the national media and government, in which the presidency and the Senate and the Supreme Court are all constitutionally titled in favor of places where no one lives. There are more than twice as many people in my mid-sized suburban county, Santa Clara, as there are in the entire state of North Dakota with its 2 United States senators. That's why, aside from Elizabeth Warren, who has a plan for housing, as she has a plan for everything, Democrats on the 2020 presidential trail rarely mention their ideas for housing affordability, an issue eating American societies or cities alive. So I watched Joe Biden's campaign kick off the other day, and the only house he mentioned was the White House. Then there is a refusal on the part of the wealthy progressives to live by the values they profess to support at the national level. Creating dense, economically and socially diverse urban environments ought to be a paramount goal of progressivism. Cities are the standard geographical unit of the global economy. Dense urban areas are quite literally the real America. The cities are where two-thirds of Americans live, and they account for almost all national economic output. Urban areas are the most environmental friendly way to know of housing lots of people. So we can't solve the climate crisis without vastly improving public transportation and increasing urban density. More than that, metropolises are good, or metropolises are good for the psyche and the soul. Density fosters tolerance, diversity, creativity, and progress. So, yet, where progressives argue for openness and inclusion as a kudo against President Trump, they abandon it on Nob Hill and in Beverly Hills. This explains the opposition to SB 50, which aimed to address the housing shortage in a very straightforward way by building more housing. The bill would have erased single family zoning in population areas near transit locations, areas zoned for homes, housing, and a handful of people could have been redeveloped to include duplexes and apartment buildings that housed hundreds. And so here, State Senator Scott Weiner Center introduced a bill later shelved that would have allowed higher density housing in areas close to transits and jobs. The bill had garnered support from a diverse coalition of business and advocacy groups, and its sponsor, State Senator Scott Weiner, had negotiated a series of compromises with some of its fiercest opponents. Polls show the measure to be viewed to be widely popular. So, for the first time, something extraordinary looked possible. So, California's wealthy homeowners would abandon their restrictionist attitudes and let us build some new housing. So, nope, instead, Anthony Portantino, a Democratic state senator whose district includes a posh city of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and who heads an appropriations committee, announced that he'd be shelving the bill until next year. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, he worried that the law would spur lots of people to move near residential bus routes, which he suggested would alter the character of enclaves like his. And why is that so bad? Reading opposition to SB 50, the other efforts at increasing density, I'm struck by an unsettling thought. What Republicans want to do with ICE and the border wall, wealthy progressive Democrats are doing with zoning and NIMBYism. So preserving local character, maintaining local control, keeping housing scarce and inaccessible, the goals of both sides are really the same: to keep people out. We're saying we welcome immigration, but we welcome refugees and we welcome outsiders, but you got to have a $2 million entrance fee to live here. Otherwise, you can use this part of the sidewalk for a tent, said Brian Hanlon, president of the pro density group California YIMBY. So that to me is not being very welcoming. It's not very being very neighborly either. And so that's pretty much the article. And that's basically what I was saying, that there right now as we speak, President Trump has made it clear that they're going to be bringing in immigrants, people, and they're going to be releasing them into cities, LA cities. And what cities would those be? More than likely, they'd be sanctuary cities, I would believe, because he has touted that he was going to do that. But when they come to these cities and find out how expensive it is to live, even the people who have already been here are having trouble finding affordable housing, as we see. Where are these people going to live? So I believe homelessness has even more than doubled, it's tripled, and maybe quadrupled. So you're going to have more homeless people on the street, as this article ended, pitching tents. So okay, so Trump threatens to dump immigrants in California sanctuary cities. So this is April 2019. California hits back as Trump threatens to dump immigrants in California cities. And so Garcetti calls plan to release immigrants. Okay, so there have been some recent articles, even after this, which states, and this article is an older article, but it actually goes along with some of the things that have been happening more recently, where they are flying people in. And so this is President President Trump, who spoke at Roosevelt Room of the White House on a Friday, and this was back in April. And you see what's titled here that he threatened to dump immigrants into California sanctuary cities. Quote. And so this was 2019. And so April 12th, this article came out. Trump both tweeted and spoke about the proposal after the Washington Post published a story on Thursday revealing the idea that had been discussed several times in recent months. Administration officials told the newspaper, specifically in recent months, that the administration officials told them that floated and rejected, but Trump undercut his denials, or their denials rather, on Friday, insisting he was still giving the idea strong consideration. Okay, so the plan would call for busing migrants from detention centers near the border and releasing them into districts of the Democratic lawmakers and other opponents of Trump's immigration policies. So, though many of the states have sanctuary counties or counties and cities, Trump has repeatedly singled out California for criticism. So, California certainly is always saying, oh, we want more people. But Trump told reporters during an unrelated White House event Friday, and they want more people in their sanctuary cities. Well, we'll give them more people. We will give them a lot of people, of course. We can give them an unlimited supply. Let's see if they're so happy. So they're always saying that they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms, he continued. So Trump repeated his complaints about Democrats' unwillingness to change asylum laws and his contention that gang members and others with criminal records are abusing the system. So he also claimed that smugglers had left Texas ranches along the border littered with bodies after abandoning migrants with nothing more than a sandwich, a soda, and vague directions to Houston. Although smugglers have been known to abandon people after getting them across the border, it was unclear that what Trump was referring to. He also took the opportunity to criticize sanctuary jurisdiction, including the state of California, which resists certain forms of cooperation with the immigration authorities. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, which is a Democrat of San Francisco, told reporters during the House Democratic Caucus retreat in Leesburg, VA, that she knew nothing about this plan. So it's just another notion that is unworthy of the presidency of the United States and disrespectful to the challenges that we face as a country, as a people, and to address who we are, a nation of immigrants, she said. So California Governor Gavin Newsom said of Trump's idea, it's illegal and it is immoral and it is unethical and it is sophomoric, so it is petulant and it is par for the course. So Representative Bennett G. Thompson, Mississippi Democrat who leads the House Committee on Homeland Security, has said even the suggestion of sending detainees to sanctuary cities is a reminder that Trump administrators are a reckless immigration agenda is not about keeping the country safe, but about partisan politics and wantonly inflicting cruelty. The Post reported that the idea was spearheaded by Stephen Miller, a White House advisor who has been an architect of some of Trump's most provocative immigration proposals, including his ban on travel from several Muslim majority countries. So Miller had also urged Trump to embrace a child separation policy that was officially overturned in June after 2 tumultuous months, but never completely ended. So after repeated suggestions by Miller, Homeland Security officials sought a formal legal opinion which said that the plan would be inappropriate and not in accordance with federal law. So when people cross the border and say that they're seeking asylum and the U.S. government can detain them until the hearing before an immigration judge, but because the number of immigration judges hasn't kept pace with the sharp increase in asylum applications, the wait for a hearing now routinely takes more than a year, which is very long. Because the government lacks enough space to detain all these people waiting for hearings, and because the court orders limit how long officials can detain children, some detainees are given a court date and released, and a practice that Trump has railed against. So those who have records of violence and criminal activity typically are not released. So it's not clear that what legal authority, if any, the government would have to transport detainees a long distance before releasing them. Sanctuary cities have long been a favorite target of Trump. So during his campaign, he repeatedly criticized San Francisco for releasing from custody an immigrant who later fired a shot and killed 32-year-old Catherine Steen in 2015. So the immigrant was ultimately acquitted in the shooting after defense attorney argued the shot had been fired by accident. So Trump called the acquittal a disgrace. So in the administration, he has tried to cut off some of federal money to sanctuary cities, but at least seven different federal courts have ruled those efforts unlawful. Miller, who was raised in Santa Monica, has encouraged Trump's recent threats to close the border with Mexico, which President has backed down from last week. So Trump also promised before the November congressional election that he would sign an executive order ending the constitutional right to citizenship for people born on American soil. So, but he did not follow the through this either as well. So still, he has followed through on the other unlikely threats, including the one that resulted in a 35-day government shutdown that began December after Congress refused to spend 5.7 billion dollars on the border wall. Despite warnings from some congressional Republicans, Trump in February declared a federal emergency at the borders to access money for the wall that Congress had denied. So, this is by Time staff writer Jennifer Habercorn in Washington and John Mayers in Sacramento contributed to the report. So, this was an article that was back in April 2019 on the 12th day. So, this was something that was touted, and as we speak, some of this is actually happening. So, what are your thoughts and opinion on all of this? It's all interrelated. When you look at this, you can see that there's something definitely that is going on in the cities, and that there's a lot of homelessness. There's a lot of problems with people being able to maintain where they live and pay the rents. The rents are higher. People are doubting that these politicians are really being truthful about who's owning the property, such as Inglewood's situation. It seems like it's all interrelated in some ways, and now we have this issue of people just merely being dumped off into like these cities without places to go, and they end up seeking refuges and places like churches and shelters, which can quickly get overcrowded. So, what do you think is going to happen in the months to come? Because this is happening at rapid pace. Um, Not long ago, I did an article where there was an Inglewood resident saying that, like, every week there's someone pulling up with a U-Haul, or there are movers that are coming and they're constantly moving different people out of areas that they've lived in, places they've lived for all their lives, almost just about. And so it's not because they decide they just want to leave, it's because they're forced to leave because of the high rents. There's no rent cap, or it's not capped enough to the point to where it can be livable and affordable at the same time. Affordable. And then there's been issues about appliances not being replaced. bed bugs, and then some other issues with electrical outlets and whatnot. And so this seems to be really like hell in a handbasket type of situation. But what are your thoughts and feedback on this? Because this is really serious. It's happening everywhere and it's starting to grow. And so you see this is entitled America's Cities Are Unlivable. And who is to blame? Is it wealthy people in general? Is it wealthy liberals? Does it have something to do with people's egos? They're not really hearing the people that are voiceless. You saw what looked like a council meeting or a town hall meeting type setting in Inglewood where people were able to voice their opinions and their thoughts and their feedback on what they're feeling and what they're going through in their cities that they so loved. And then you see the reaction from Mayor Butts, James Butts, in fact, and that there's people who are on fixed incomes and they're being thrown out of their homes simply because they can't afford it. So is this fair? And then there are people that are on housing programs and they're being told because the rent is rising that they must move. This seems to be a growing problem, and it's not just in LA, is what I'm saying. It's not just in California. Seems like it's going to reach other places. I've heard recently, more recently, people from Atlanta, people from New York, people from other cities where they have said that they are having rising rents and they're having the same issues happen where they stay. So, what's going on? What's really going on? Something's really going on. And so, this is starting to affect a greater number of people that we know. And having said that, I'm going to let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe. Give your feedback. What should we do about these issues? Because they are starting to grow and they're not just in California, as what I've been told. Thanks for listening.